Are you in a new location?
No, this is the same like porch with unpainted walls, or unpainted shelves, I should say, underneath. But I changed to this location mostly to showcase this new thing.
Yeah, so what the heck are we looking at here? It looks to me like a CRT television that's on top of like a built-in speaker. It's kind of tall.
Yes, it is a Sony Trinitron 32-inch TV. It's from the mid-90s, so 1995. It has a faux wood grain exterior with a built-in stand with giant speakers. And I saw it for free on Facebook Marketplace, and I wanted it. And also, this particular model is RGB moddable, so I'm going to make a video about modding it. So that was the main thrust to acquire it.
Is it perfectly functional?
Oh, it's amazing. In fact, like, Frankie, I gotta tell you, I turned this thing on and I started like just playing games, and this is so like stupid, but I was like tearing up. Seriously,
Aww.
It's you know, maybe it's like man baby toys, but you know what? It brought me right back, because we had a similar Sony Trinitron from the mid '90s, and like I remember playing, you know, like N64 on it, especially N64, PlayStation, and it just like it. This is the type of TV those systems were made for.
When I bought my my 2002 TV upstairs, there are people who listen to this podcast that are local that were like, I was so pissed off to hear that you spent hundreds of dollars on a CRT television because I'm trying to get rid of some. Like suddenly CRTs are weird, man. Like if you want a specific one, you're going to have to shell out. But there are still a lot of people trying to offload these things.
And if you're in a certain part of the country, there are none. So if you wanted a retro gaming system in like the middle of the country, you're not getting one. But here in New England, actually, if you go on Facebook Marketplace, there's a ton of them.
Yeah. You just have to be happy with what the offers are. Well, that's good. So when are you going to do the mod?
As soon as all the parts are in, like I'm waiting on some parts. And also, I like there's a non-zero chance that doing the mod I'll ruin the thing. So I'm kind of like, I'm just like enjoying it as is for a moment.
Say, if it brings a tear to your eye, you might not want to risk it.
You know, it's for content, so who cares?
Always worth it.
It's always worth it for something that'll get like 1,200 views.
So how many CRTs do you have now? What are we talking?
Good question. So I did get rid of one recently. It was one of the one if you saw when I streamed Duck Hunt, there was one that I got for free from my dad. He like had one in his their rental place, and he gave it to me. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace for nothing. So that's minus that one. So, but what I have is a 13-inch Samsung with RGB SCART input. That's one. I have the Sony 20-inch 20 M4U, which is like an RGB monitor. The was a Toshiba 24-inch with a built-in DVD player, and then this one. So this is a Sony 32-inch Trinitron.
Yeah, I got a remote that works.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was elated. I needed it too. I had a bad week, and then like the remote worked.
You had a bad week. Needed a remote.
I had a car.
Well, this one came with. I'm just gonna grab it. This one came with like a really crazy remote, and you can't see it right now, but it's so beat up, and it has this like lever on the side, which when you hit the lever, it changes like the button layout. It's really strange, but it's so beat up. You have to like really like press the buttons to do anything, and some of the buttons don't work. So I did end up going on eBay and getting one that works. But luckily, the Sony Trantrons, like, they're so abundant, the remotes. And so I got the Universal Commander, and it works perfectly. So it's not as specialized as a Panasonic combo DVD remote.
Yeah, that was a big problem. But we got it. It's working. Now I can watch my DVDs. I can pop in some old standard F DVDs and enjoy them. No, I needed it, man, because I was I had like basically 2.5 weeks of car trouble, is what it amounted to. So, like a year and a half ago, I had my engine started smoking while I was driving. So I drive a Kia Soul 2016. I bought it in 2018, maybe. And
not that old.
Not that old. I have 88,000 miles on it, and I've I work from home a lot, and so I don't put a ton of miles on my car generally. I think I bought it at like 40,000, something like that. And I want to say I spent like 15,000 on it. I try to. My goal has always been to, I'm not a car guy. I don't live in my car. I don't. I certainly don't view cars as an opportunity to be fashionable. I need them to get from here to there and be reasonably reliable. But I also kind of accept the fact that like every car over time is going to require an increasing amount of maintenance. And then the question just becomes like, when does the maintenance start to exceed, the value of the car, which is never obvious to me. So I haven't really had any problems with it. I had a flat tire one time, maybe 6 months ago. About a year and a half ago, the engine light came on, and I was like I drove it for an extra minute, which I shouldn't have done. And then the engine actually started smoking, and I got out. But it turned out to be fine. They were able to, there was no damage. And apparently it was a manufacturing defect, this engine issue.
Oh.
And so I always bring it to the dealership. And I know this is a very controversial thing to say, because I bought it from there, for one thing. And if you do all your maintenance from there, if your engine does blow up or something like that happens, they sometimes will take care of you. And in this case, they did. But this last time, it was maybe a week after Christmas, and Nina and I were going out for a date night. I've been looking forward to it for a while, because if you remember how crazy Christmas and New Year's. Mm-hmm. And we were like, let's go to Play Arcade in New Bedford, where we've been before. We're going to get a big pizza, and we're going to get a bunch of tokens and play House of the Dead and Hydro Thunder and just have a good damn time. And so, I'm almost there. I actually missed the exit. I was like, I'll just loop back around. Now I'm in New Bedford, crime-infested New Bedford. It's like one of the top crime cities in the country. And my engine light starts to flash amber. And I'm like, amber, that must not be that bad. Flashing, that must not be that bad. So I Google it, though, just to make sure. And they're like, no, that means stop immediately, stop driving. So we pull over, and there was a shipyard. There's a boat yard. So we're in there. It's at nighttime. It's drizzling. It's cold. And I guess I got to just sit here and call AAA, right? Fuck, there goes the night. And AAA is, I don't need them very often, so I'm still kind of getting used to the fact that they're very app-centric. Like, they're more about their app than they are about human beings. So I always expect I'm going to, connect with an operator and sort this thing out, but instead it's like, it's all GPS, and, you can track it like it's an Uber. But then, if the page reloads, it doesn't, it doesn't work properly.
Oh, my.
So it said, they're an hour away. So I'm going to sit here in the boatyard at nighttime, drizzling cold, with my wife, until the guy comes, and he's like, what's the problem, by the way? Roadside assistance. And I'm like, it says stop immediately, but it says normally the cause is, engine misfires, he was like, yeah, that's true. He goes, probably you're fine, but better not chance it. So he says, where's it going? And I said, I guess tow it to the dealership. So he tows it to the dealership, and he's like, do you guys need a ride? There's not much room in the car. And we were going to go with him and then get, an Uber from Kia, because he can only go to one stop. We were going to get an Uber from Kia to just go home and be done with it, and then go to get Nina's car and go pick up Gloria. But then we're like, hey, wait a minute. We could walk, 4 minutes. We look at the, Apple Maps, and we're like, it's just 4 minutes away. So we actually walked to the arcade, had a nice time at the arcade, and then Ubered to home. So I actually called Kia that night, and they're like, well, we're closing at 5. And this is the weekend before New Year's, so they're like, we can't look at it until Tuesday. and there's a lot of tow-ins in front of you. And I actually need my car on Wednesdays. I go into Boston on Wednesdays. So I'm like, maybe they'll have it done by Wednesday. Naive.
No.
They don't even talk to me until Friday.
Wow.
I'm calling every day. And I'm getting this, like, the Kia service representative. And the guy, like, I'm like, hey, can you just tell me, like, what's going on with it? And he goes, to be completely honest with you, I have no idea. I said, well, can you give me, like, an ETA? Let me know. Like, I'm trying to plan work schedule. Sir, to be completely honest with you, I have no idea. He kept saying that. He said, to be completely honest with you, I have no idea. Which is, like, 2 sentences that suck from a service representative. I have no idea. It's obviously kind of unacceptable. But do you hate to be honest with you as much as I do?
I don't know. I probably use something similar, like honestly, or it is a verbal tick.
Yeah, I mean, there's like sometimes there's using it to emphasize the fact that there's like a deeper truth. But a lot of times people, like, I was interviewing somebody recently, and they kept saying, like, to be honest with you. And I was like, well, yes.
Because normally I would just fucking lie.
Yeah, like, this is really weird. Like, stop saying that. It's shaking my confidence in you. And I actually do think that, like, automotive, construction, like carpentry, they do tend to, like, anytime I've ever had house repairs, they always talk to you like, well, to be totally honest with you, what you probably could do. They always like level with you, like, I'm gonna give you like the inside scoop. Normally we fuck you, but you seem nice, so I'm not gonna just fuck you. Like, come on. It's like I'm negotiating with the mafia.
Completely honest with you.
So finally, I get not a call from my service representative, who, to be completely honest with you, I have no idea. But I get like a weird automated text from him. He's been kind of AI'd himself, and it says, like, we've got a issue, knock sensor. Also found spark plugs covered in oil. Also brake lines, brake pads, et cetera, $2,500. And I'm like, okay. What's the actual problem? Why did I bring this? I brought it in because of the flashing light, and it took a while. Like, it took like a day for me to get the answer. They're like, oh, that was the knock sensor. It went bad. Our extended warranty covers it. We'll replace the sensor. You never had an engine problem. You just had a sensor problem. But while you're here, hey, for some reason your spark plugs are covered in oil, and also you should get $2,500 worth of repairs. Now, I agreed to this, because I had already dropped it off with them for several days, and I wanted my car back. And if they're telling me I have rotted brake lines or whatever, let's just get it fixed. So I wait several more days. So now it's been like a week and a half, no car. I go to pick it up, and I still was like, why? Because especially male in my life, like, cars are not my thing, obviously, but, like, is this why women hate men? Because anytime I told this story to anybody, they're like, what? You need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to ask him why because it makes no sense that the spark plugs are covered in oil. There's a lot of like interrogation against me. I'm like, oh my God, I just want to like throw money at it and go home. And I just need my car back. And they start talking to you about how you need to get a new car and lecturing you about that. So I get it back, and I drive it to Boston. And when I go to drive home, I smell like strong gas. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, jeez.
And by the way, when I picked it up, they couldn't tell me. They actually couldn't describe to me what they did or what they found wrong. I had to, like, pull it out. He was like, I don't know, I'm the night manager. I don't really know what happened to your car. I'm like, well, I just spent $2,500 in repairs. They're like, oh, let me see if Dylan's around. He's not around. It was terrible. So I smell gas. I ignore it. I go home. And later that night, Nina's like, hey, I hate to tell you this, but your car is totally leaking gas, like, all over the driveway.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's new. This all started with a bad sensor. So I call, and I'm pissed. And they're like, it could be a new issue. We don't know. Well, to be honest with you, we have no idea. Just bring it in for you, and we can probably by Wednesday. It's going to be another week. No car, so I bring it in, and they admit after a while, they're like, yeah, when we had to lower your fuel tank when we were replacing your brake lines that we insisted that you do, and we accidentally punctured it, so we caused it. So we'll cover that. I was like, okay, well, could you give me like a loaner car? And they're like, let me check if there's loaner cars. There are no loaner cars.
To be completely honest with you,
to be honest with you, I don't think we can help you whatsoever. That'll be $2,500. So, by this point, I'm a 38-year-old man, right? But I have a dad who lives just down the street, and he is a former car mechanic. He's a gearhead. And I would say cars are some of the most important things to him. He really cares about cars. They buy new. They insist on buying new. They're very particular about, it's like it's got to be a Subaru, Toyota, one of those. So he was always kind of unhappy that I had a Kia. He always felt that it was too small. He's got, it's like you need a big car. You need a big car that's safe for your family. You're going to kill your whole family. And so he's like, hey, next time call me when you're broken down. I'm retired. I want to help out. So I had a plan. I needed to go into Boston on a Wednesday, and I was there at the dealership on a Tuesday. And this was my plan was, because I knew that they just needed to replace this thing. My plan was to go in. I told them I'm going to come in, and I'm going to basically stare at you until it's fixed, and then I'm going to go home. And then I'm going to have the car by Wednesday. So Nina drops me off in the morning. I figure I'm going to work there I'm going to do my work from the dealership because they had Wi-Fi. And the guy comes out 10 minutes later and he goes, I forgot to tell you, you don't need to be here today because we overnighted the pot and we couldn't get it here today, but it'll be here tomorrow. So you also can't go to work tomorrow. And so I was like, I guess I'll call my dad to come pick me up because at this point I have no other ride home. So he shows up. And it was right as the mechanic and the service guy were talking to me. And he shows up like a specter of death right behind him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And by the way, the mechanic is big and obese. And my dad's like not a fan. Okay. And so he's right there. And I didn't know what else to say. I was a little startled to see him. Just to see him kind of like materialize. He didn't text me to be like, I'm almost there or anything like that. He just materialized. And so I go, hey, how you doing? And he goes, lousy. And he's like so pissed because he just hates the place. And those guys scatter, thankfully. And then my dad, I start to walk to him to his car and he goes, this whole place is a fucking circus. Like loudly in the play. I'm like, oh God, get me out of here. Yeah, I agree. The place is a fucking circus. But he was just really angry. And yeah, on the way home in the car, he's like, here's what you need to do. You need to buy new.
Buy new.
And never go to, he goes, do me a favor. Never go to that place ever again. He was just, I was like, oh man, this has become a lot. And this is where I want to poll for people's opinions on this. There's a prevailing wisdom out there that if you're at an income level where you could buy a new car and not have to finance it, that used cars are not, in a post-COVID world, they're not all that much less expensive.
Yeah, used cars, the price of used cars has gone up.
It's gone way up. So you might say, well, buy new, all warranty, no maintenance for the first 2 years or something, and trade it in, sell it like 3 years in, like 40,000 miles in. Like early, so you get maximum value back, then buy new again, and notwithstanding the initial investment, that is a cost-effective way to keep annoyances down with cars and have good cars in perpetuity. But I think there's flaws with that. Yeah. The insurance is going to be really expensive, right? In my case, again, I don't drive that much, so what am I buying a brand new car for? I told I was hearing this from my dad, and I was like, I don't drive that much. He's like, give your wife a brand new car, would you? I was like, oh, is that what it's about?
It's like what?
You could probably spreadsheet this out and make an argument for kind of selling it before it becomes a problem and then moving on to the next car. But I don't know. I have spent a very small amount of money on cars, and I haven't had all that big of an issue with cars.
Yeah, I don't spend that much at all. Like, well, one, I still have a 2003 Camry.
Camrys are good cars.
Which is going strong. It runs extremely well. I just get oil changes. Every once in a while, there's like some part that needs replacing, but it's not that much. Like, but the insurance is like, if you get into like a minor fender bender, that's like that totals your car. That's the total value, because I think my car probably the value is like 2,500 or something.
So you kind of have to drive the value into the ground.
Yeah.
You know, another thing that people will say, I'm sure, is don't go to the dealership, go to like your local place or whatever. And there's totally wisdom in that, obviously. This reminds me of the haircut discussion, by the way. Don't go to Supercuts, go to a barber. Because I do get the sense that the dealership, the mechanics they hire, are the Supercuts of the car industry. They seem to be hiring just totally amateur people that take a long time and fuck things up.
And I do wonder, like, there's probably just like in all industries, there's a lack of talent. Yeah. And so, and there's, and of course, because car prices are going so high up, more and more people are getting their cars repaired. So it's like you get a smaller pool of good mechanics and more people are getting repairs. And thus, like, you have to wait like 2 weeks to get your car repaired.
Yeah, it's the South Park thing, you know, the Elon Musk of trades mechanics.
Well,
I got another job where you ran up the street there. But so I respect all that. So I actually, when the gas thing happened, I called a place in North Dartmouth called Brum's, who has done a great job in the past. And you know what? I called the number. A human being responded. He was actually really nice, and he was like, "Yeah, I bet it was." You know, he said, which dealership did you go to? Oh, Kia. Yeah, I bet they broke your fuel tank. And he's like, "Yeah, happy to take it." He goes, "It's just that we do have high demand, and you know, we're the kind of place where like you want to schedule repairs with us like a week out. We're not like a turn it around the next day place." And he's like, "But we're gonna do a really great job in your car, and you should really come to us." And I was like, "All right, I'll think about it. But right now, I just want my car back." And by that point, it was them who broke it, so they would fix it for free. And so you're stuck. You're stuck in their world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm intrigued by this, like, buy new, sell early, buy new again, sell early again wave that you might be able to ride. Other people talk about leasing, but I think one of the issues with leasing is that you, if there's any imperfection on the thing, you don't, you know, they make you pay pretty big penalties for that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm like you. I don't really care about cars at all. So as long as my 2003 Toyota Camry keeps running, I'm gonna run into the ground.
Like my dad ties like personal value to like he is disgusted with you if you have a dirty car. Like if you have like trash in your car or if like not properly wiped or you know there's like never dust on the dashboard. He's like, we take good care of our cars. We're good people.
He'll be disgusted with my car. I have like rust holes that I taped over and stuff like that.
I remember my very first car. I did drive it until I bought it for $1,200. It was a 1992 Subaru, and I bought it in 2003, and I drove it until 2007 maybe or 6. And yeah, I drove it until the axle snapped. Like literally, I was driving and the axle snapped. It just rotted because it had terrible body rot. And yeah, he was like, "Wow, you really did drive it until the wheels fell off. Yeah. Good for you."
Well, I had was it Saturn? I had Saturn cars.
The Sega Saturn car?
Yeah, remember Saturn was like an American company.
Oh, yeah.
And they sucked. It was awful. It was like it didn't have any horsepower or anything. Like, because you have to plan your acceleration like really like in a long runway, and then you'd also have to plan your like the brakes had like a delay to them. So you had to plan when you were gonna stop. And the transmission on I think both of them went shot, and then as soon as your transmission's gone, you might as well get a car because it's like too expensive.
My dad was demonstrating to me because they have a new Subaru, and he was like, "See, when you cross over the yellow line in the middle of the road, it starts beeping at you, and so it'll even steer you back into There's like a lot of like auto driving stuff that's forced upon you in these cars. Or there was because in Massachusetts it's actually illegal to I think to leave your car idling, like to sit there with it idling.
Yeah, it is. You can't warm up your car.
Yeah, exactly. So this like automatically is some green initiative. It turns the engine off. Like there's a touchscreen button. It turns the engine off, and you can be like, "Oh no, disable that. I don't want to automatically turn the engine off when I'm stopped." And then it'll turn it back. It'll turn back on. It forces it on you.
Yeah. So, well, the good thing about having a 2003 Camry is there's not excessive amount of computers in it, and the parts are pretty like off the shelf, so it's pretty easy to repair.
Yeah.
Like the problem with new cars is all the proprietary crazy shit that's in them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you drive all the way down to see us on some regularity, and your car seems to always do just fine.
Yeah, it's been the same car since the beginning of Boxmag, that's for sure.
Wow, that's crazy. That's 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's my car story. It kind of was not the most fun thing I've ever done.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.